Hey folks, I'm attorney Roger P. Foley, driving into work this morning, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about prosecutors and defense attorneys and judges. And where does this topic come from? I had a client that, well, not a client, someone who's on my YouTube channel asked me to do a video regarding the relationships between prosecutors and defense attorneys and the favors that are done between them. And I went, the public really does think that, don't they? So let's talk about that for a second, right? I have a case and I reach out to the prosecutor and I say, hey, I have Mr. Smith's case. Guess what, folks? If the prosecutor likes me or has respect for me due to the work that I've done with them before, I'll usually get a prompt call back. The newer and younger prosecutors tend not to give two shits, and they tend to fail in getting back to someone. So you usually have to reach out to them several times. And there's always some excuse. You know, I'm in trial, I'm in a depot, I'm so busy. Well, we've been in COVID for, what, 3 months now? There's no trials, there's no depositions, and the young ones still doing the same crap, taking forever to get back to you. So to answer that question of the young lady that wrote in on the YouTube channel, what's that relationship like? Well, I can only tell you from the defense perspective. From the defense perspective, I give respect. Now, I expect respect, but sometimes, I expect it, but I don't always get it, right? So what do I mean by that? I tend to reach out to a prosecutor after I've looked at all of my discovery, reviewed everything, and say, this is what I think it is, based on the facts that you have, based on the facts that I have, and I tend to share them. This is what I think. Now, some prosecutors are like, okay, that's fair. That's a fair analysis of it. I think the resolution you're proposing is fair. Let's do that. And then there's some other prosecutors that go, yeah, no, because I want here, they want here. And that's almost like a competitive thing. But not only is it a competitive thing, but it really goes to the judge. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that if you got a judge that is really just a policeman wearing a black robe over their police uniform, and they don't really care about the defense perspective, and I know, folks, judges are supposed to be neutral, like a referee at a boxing match or a UFC match. They're supposed to gauge both sides, that they're supposed to have an understanding of the law. But guess what? They want to be tough on crime so they can get reelected. Sometimes being tough on crime means that, that's analogous to saying, I'm just going to believe that the officer's right. So that means that the judge is going to have a demeanor that's like, yeah, if it's 50-50, I'm going to go with the cop. Now, the Constitution says if it's 50-50, you're supposed to go with the defendant. But I can tell you most judges don't have that. I've encountered some that do, and I'm very appreciative of those. But most judges are at least 55% for the state, 45% for the defense, or 60% for the state, 40% for this. They just give that nod to the police, to the prosecution, right? So what happens is, if I go to a prosecutor with a resolution and they have what I refer to as a tough judge, they're not going to give me what I would deem to be a credible offer. They're going to give me an offer that they think the judge would condone, that the judge would agree with. So I have so many examples of that. I've had cases, I had a case recently where I wanted to lift a warrant, and the prosecutor said, no, it's several years old, and I just can't do that. And I'm going, what are you talking about? Like, the person missed an arraignment. Yes, it was several years ago, but there were extenuating circumstances, and I explained that to the prosecutor of what the delay was and that the individual had moved away and what have you. But this particular judge, let's say that particular judge is really like a I don't know, 70-30 state kind of judge. And the prosecutor we had a conversation about it. Like, look, there's no way my judge is going to do it. If I agree with what you're saying, which, you know, I do sympathize with your client in the story, you know what, the judge is going to give me crap. Well, that's not the way it's supposed to be, folks, right? It's supposed to be that the prosecutor is prosecuting the case, and they're supposed to do, right, they have some discretion to do what's right or what's wrong. Well, if they have in my opinion, a very state-oriented judge, well, they have to tend to follow the lead of the judge, which that's not the way it's supposed to be. So to answer this young lady's question, the deals that go back and forth, they don't. You call up a prosecutor, you haggle out something, or for instance, I might prepare a motion to suppress, or I might prepare a memorandum of law, send it to the state attorney, and they go, I've had state attorneys literally say, I agree with you, Mr. Foley, and I think you make a very good point, but I know this judge isn't going to grant your motion and you're going to have to appeal it, so I'm going to be objecting. Wow, like, that kills me, right? Because that's like going with the flow, and I hate that. But guess what? You know, a lot of prosecutors start off, you know, right out of college, and they don't have the self-confidence. They don't have the chutzpah, right, to stand behind their own decision thinking. They don't have the courage to stand up against a judge who is demeaning and acting as if they're all-knowing. So I've only had one case, right, to answer her question. I keep going back to this question. I had one case where I sent an associate to court to get a case dismissed. I had already won the motion to suppress. The time for the appeal had already gone by, and this was in Broward County, you know, where all crazy stuff goes on. And the prosecutor, you know, gets up to the podium and thinks that there's being an announcement for a null pros, and the state goes, Judge, can we put this on recall? And walks outside with my associate and says, listen, we're not ready to dismiss this case. My associate kind of looks like bewildered, like he already won the motion to suppress. You don't have any evidence. Well, the prosecutor says, listen, if Mr. Foley does the right thing on this case and negotiates out a resolution with us, meaning has his client plead no contest to a charge that Mr. Foley's already won, then the state attorney's office will look out for him on future cases. Okay, this was probably in like 2010, and I instantly did a blog about it. You know, stupidity, innocence, corruption, I don't know, something titled to that effect. That's the only time I've ever heard that. Now, I can't speak for other attorneys and the deals that they have or don't have. I do it the ethical way. You know, people hire me because of what I can do, not because of my fancy office or because I have a bunch of fancy people working for me or because I have clerks running in and out. They hire me because I get things done. I don't think, to answer your question, that there are favors done between the defense and the prosecution. I respect their position to prosecute, and I hope that they respect my position to defend my client to the best of my ability to show the problems with the case. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes there's a friendly argument. Sometimes there's a disgruntled, you know, F you after the phone hangs up, but not to anyone's face. That's the reality, folks. You get caught up in it. So I don't think that the relationship is anything other than a professional relationship. If someone likes me or has had many cases with me, has battled me in the courtroom, I just ask that they respect me and give me a call back and return my messages when I email them. If they disagree with something that I proffer to them, or they disagree with the resolution, then sometimes I'll have to do an open plea to the judge, which I really don't want to do because of what I said about judges generally. Usually what I'll do is I'll keep gnawing at that prosecutor, and I will respectfully request that I be able to speak to their supervisor so I can have another set of eyes on the situation. I don't think that I ever make ridiculous offers because I play chess with myself as if I was a prosecutor and a defense attorney. If I do this, what's the counter to this? And vice versa. So I tend to make offers that I think are fair, that are good for my client, but also respectful to the state's position. You know, if someone's facing 10 years minimum mandatory on an armed robbery, I don't go, you know, could we do a year of probation? Because that would be ridiculous, right? And you know, I've seen defense attorneys do that, and I think it's ridiculous as they say it, as the words come out of their mouth. But I do understand the proposition. If you go to here, maybe they'll come lower. You know, I just do it my way. No relationship between state and defense other than professionalism. You do your best to do your job, and it usually works out.